My name is Graeme Browne. I work at the Department of Physical Planning and Environment as a conservation officer / JS assistant. I could remember me and my friends as little boys growing up, running around the fort, visiting the different buildings, and he explaining what they were used for before it was turned into a leper asylum. We visited the prison, and we used to play police and bad guys in there. And there was a point in time where some cruise ship used to be passing the sea, and he would call us and take us down to the most westerly point in the fort. And we would stand on the wall, and these cruise liners would stop, and they would blow their horn 3 times, and we never understand what was it for. And he said, I think it was a way of marking their respect between the two countries, nations that used to fight over it. It was the French and the British at that point in time, I think. So after that, when he told us what it was, we used to, when the cruise ship passed, we used to run there and wave at them. And then after it turned into a leper asylum, still used to run about there. Yeah, it was a real beautiful garden in the center of it, with a shed, something like a gazebo, where everybody would sit there, and around it you had a number of different fruit trees. The workers used to sit there and tell stories as we listen, we play pitching, we pick fruits, and we just be kids. But the walkways were nicely marked with cobblestones and grass well kept. It was just a nice, tranquil atmosphere that it provided. It's important. It's one of our last physical structures that gives us a brief insight of our history. I mean, how the walls and how they protected our coastline. So I think it should be protected, but I'm not that optimistic anymore. I mean, I've seen the vandalism to the point of almost disrepair. I mean, it's sort of disheartening when you walk along the coast where you had these huge walls. It look like you can't even climb over them, and now you see through climate change and coastal erosion, everything is down. Persons going and stealing the stones for sale, so it's sort of really disheartening to see what it's like now compared to what it was then. I'm really hoping that somebody, some organization, whether community-based, government, or other NGOs could come together and try to see whatever work that can be done to restore it. I mean, I remember on the grounds of the fort, you could find cannonballs of all shapes and sizes, and you had cannons between each cutout in the wall. These things are all gone, and it's only now that I started working in the ministry and you understand the true importance of these things and the cultural importance to us. You would say, if I had known now what I know then, I would have done more to try and, protect them, stop persons from vandalizing and raping the site. But these things are gone. For me, I would like to see it to be restored to something similar to Brimstone Hill. From a planning perspective, I would like to see us declare an actual buffer around the site. As it is right now, because of our small size and our growing population, the demand for housing sort of pressuring us to encroach on lands that would have provided a buffer for the site. So first, I would like to see a buffer be established around the site, and then the site be restored to something similar to Brimstone Hill, with the buildings being built around and on the grounds as they were back in its heyday. And I would like to see persons who have some of these artifacts in their home donate them back to the folk when it's completed. I know persons took some overseas and some are in well, I would say safekeeping overseas. I mean, if they could donate them back after it's completed, that would be really nice, you know. I mean, seeing the coppers, the cannons, the balls, the old utensils, to see them in a actual miniature building like it was then, that would be really nice, you know. It's something that I would like to show my daughter. Yeah. I remember some of the lepers really well. They were all friends, you know. They used to tell us stories where they come from, because most of them weren't from St. Kitts, they come from other islands, and you know, you just look at them there in their little room. Some of them bedridden, but yet still have some sort of independence for themselves. They used to tell us stories and share their goodies, and when family or loved ones, organizations come out and, you know, give them stuff like treats, you know, they would share with the kids. I remember the workers, a couple of them, they cook. She was a really good cook, she died. And only my father, sometimes I would listen to him reminisce on some of the stories. I know the nurse, the orderly just died recently, you know, and he had some good stories about the area that, you know, he would tell us, me and my sisters, so yeah, I do remember them. I go there regularly. Like I say, it's literally my backyard, so during my training I would run there. When I go to the beach, I would look at it. I took my daughter there. I think it was a week ago. Yeah, we were going on a little hike and went through there. But when I entered the gates, I mean, nothing looked the same. So I just turned back. I know it was the place where a lot of Amerindians were massacred by the British. I've actually went up the gut and looked at the petroglyphs there. That's as much as I know about that area. But I've heard stories in history class and field trips to that area. Not as much as I feel attached to Charles Fort, but yeah, I mean, the Amerindians, they were here, they were a part of our history, you know. I look at the drawings. I do feel a sense of attachment to it, but not as strong as Charles Fort. A physical monument could be placed closer to the main road, where, you know, persons can know that, well, something happened there, with a little plaque or something instead of the signboard that's there, giving a brief history of what happened there, probably a little area where ceremonies could be performed. I remember some time ago the Department of Tourism brought in the Caribs from Dominica to try and lay the souls who were massacred there to rest. That was a nice event to look at. If we could have some land set aside for maybe a little museum type activity, because I know more tourists do stay in that area. But the most I would get is get to read the advertising board that's there. The track to the actual petroglyphs is not too clearly marked, maybe for a good reason, maybe for safety of them, but I mean, it would be nice if you could have a little track that leads to them, so that they could actually take a short walk and actually see the drawings on the walls of the gut. That would be nice, because you standing down there and looking at them, and then you see how small you are. It's a nice feeling, you know. Yeah, so something like that would be good. You know, at the same time, we could also provide jobs for some tour guides from the area. You know, give them a sense of ownership for it. so that they could upkeep and maintain the trails while at the same time gaining a little revenue or income from taking interested persons on a short 50 minutes walk to the site. 1492, it's a significant year. I mean, that's the year when Columbus discovered the islands. St. Kitts in particular, I mean, you could say that's the year when everything started. And for me, that's when St. Kitts was discovered, and everybody see the potential of it and started wars over it. And then the slave trade began basically for us. I mean, if it wasn't for that, maybe I would not have been here. I mean, it's not a proud moment in my history that I would like to remember, but it happened, and I sort of welcome it still, because it gives me a greater sense of pride to know who I am, where I come from, and the struggles that I've been through. So even though a lot of bad things happened that year, still wouldn't write it off. Still would have liked to see certain things done differently, but yeah. Doing this documentary just bring back a lot of feelings, and carrying back in a time when things was much better than they are now. I mean, if persons seeing this documentary could do anything to contribute or to help restore these sites, probably more about our local historical sites be included in the syllabus, that, I mean, children at a more tender age can really understand earlier what it means to us as Kittitians and black people, so to speak. They would take ownership at an earlier age than what I had to do at a later age. I believe if I had the greater education then, I mean, I would have played a more focal part in preserving these sites, especially Charles Fort. A bunch of students came from Leiden University, and they were doing some studies on the effects of climate change and some of our historical sites, and I've had the privilege of working with them. Charles Fort in particular, I remember when we used to have at least maybe a good 30 feet from the back of the wall to the actual coastline, and now there is no coastline. Some of it is because of climate change, but I know some of it is from persons who went looking for artifacts. The cannons were in place on the top of the wall, and they would have fallen off over time because there was no maintenance or upkeep of the property after the home closed. So they would have fallen off and landed on the ground, and they would have gotten buried over time. And they came in. I could remember one time a bulldozer actually came down the road in front of my house and went around the bay and actually started shoveling off the slope just to get back in. And then when they reach in, they find bottles, pots, pans, cannons, and they come in by sea, they build a little bridge, and they take them out. I mean, so some of it, they actually clear the vegetation, and the type of soil that's there is sort of loose, so clearing the vegetation, and then with hurricanes and then the dry weather, it just sort of everything just compiled together and left it, increased the erosion rate. Yeah. The work that I do at the department is using GIS, and we have historic maps, and over the years I've been monitoring the coastline in that area, because we have actually zoned that area as a sensitive area, which is more susceptible to coastal erosion than other parts of the island. And looking back at the past 10 years, we've had we've seen an erosion rate of almost 8 feet. Before, being based on predictions that you were reading in the international arena, it certainly don't seem like that is happening in St. Kitts. It's happening faster. I've had the privilege of visiting many countries, and the way they preserve and protect their sites is almost like a sacred ground, and we just trample on them. I mean, we have time, but does these sites have time? I mean, with the effects of global, climate change and the fast intervention of the electronic age, I mean, nobody really spend more time outside anymore. So it's there and then it's gone, and then you only look on Facebook and you see pictures of what it used to be like, and then you're going to be asking, where was this when it was right there all along? So I mean, yeah, you see it like we have time, but I don't think these sites have much time. Honestly, I don't. So. But I'm committed. I'm committed to doing whatever I can from a personal standpoint, and from working within the ministry to try and get whatever legislations and lands declared and set aside for the restorations of some of these sites.